Welcome into another KHTK.com exclusive interview. My name is Matt George, back with some more Republic FC content for all of you. You're always asking for more coverage for your hometown club, the Sacramento Republic FC. And now that there are a few games into the regular season, we're really going to do as much as we can to hit the ground running and make sure you have all the Sacramento Republic content that you could ask for. I had Shannon Gomez with me a couple of weeks ago before the home opener. I've raised you two Republic FC soccer players this time. I'm doing everything I can. Pretty soon this entire room is going to be filled with Republic, and I'm going to be standing in the back somewhere. But I'm joined by Sam Werner and Drew Skundrich. I'm very excited to speak with these guys. These two know each other very, very well. They're not just teammates at Republic. They're former teammates at Stanford, and we're going to get to know them a little bit more and know them on the field, off the field, and hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as I'm looking forward to enjoying it. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
So you guys just returned from a battle in Tacoma against formerly Seattle Sounders 2, now the Tacoma Defenders.
Defiance.
Oh, Defiance, thank you. See, they know more than I do. They just rebranded. I'm still getting used to it, but they're pros. They already know what they're doing. But Tacoma ended up beating you 2-1, first loss of the season, but ultimately it's been a great start for your club, and you have to be pretty pleased with how you guys have gotten off out of the gate.
Yeah, it's a tough one to take on the road, but those are going to come. It's a long season. It's more of how we respond. We have a game coming up quickly again on Saturday, so all eyes are towards that now.
And when you drop games like that, Drew, is it easier to come back home and just get back in your training facility and correct those mistakes, hit the ground running, and now you know, okay, we have the advantage. We're back in front of our home crowd, so we're just going to take that next step and get back into the win column?
Yeah, it's definitely more helpful. I think we've looked at film. We've talked about the past game, so I think it's really helpful that we're playing quicker than usual. We have a kind of a quick turnaround, so we're just kind of putting that in the past now, looking forward to the future and what we can do better. So we're excited to get going on Saturday.
One of the things I learned from having the opportunity to broadcast for the Republic last year, but being able to attend some of their trainings, interact with head coach Simon Elliott, is that this team always works hard and they always put in the effort just as much off the field during practice as they do when they take the field for an actual match. So what has training been like, or any adjustments specifically to the game plan coming off of this road trip, or is it business as usual?
A lot of it's business as usual. I mean, I think the worst thing you can do as an athlete is drop one game and think everything needs to change. And so we know we had chances to finish that game, and we've done well in the past. And so a lot of it's just sharpening the tools we already have and making sure we're fresh and ready to go on Saturday.
Was the off-season long enough for you guys to get ready and get going, or does that sometimes take a few weeks of the regular season to really get into form?
I think for the off-season, the biggest thing is coming in fit and sharp, ready to compete, and it's hard to kind of get the chemistry and the little details right that you need to make the team what it can be. So it always takes a little bit of time during preseason and the first few games of the regular season to really start gelling and start performing at our top level. So we're just using the base that we had from the off-season and the base that we've gained from preseason and the start to just keep building and growing as a team.
And I'm going to stick with you, Drew. One of the things that I fell in love with the game of soccer is just how different each individual position is, how important it is for all of you to work together as a close-knit unit. But you guys are both midfielders, and you pay so much attention to the midfield. I almost sometimes feel sorry from an outside perspective for the midfield, just for the amount of running that you guys have to do, the amount of ground that you have to cover. But from my conversation with Shannon Gomez, he's a fullback but gets involved in the attack. He likes being involved in everything, and that's really the main name of the game for the midfield, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my position is box-to-box midfield, so I'm expected and actually enjoy doing the work going from box to box, doing both the defensive and offensive parts of the game. So I think that's just part of the game that I enjoy.
And what specifically is your role, Sam, when you come in and when you play the midfield? Because midfield is so broad, there's so much that actually happens there. Is there anything specific that they want you to focus on, or is it just well-rounded?
I mean, as a wide guy, for me, my biggest role is to contribute to the attack as much as I can. And then once I get all the way forward, make sure I'm getting myself back to defend as well. But I mean, as a wide guy, I got to make an impact in an attacking sense, beat guys, try to get assists, try to get shots off, things like that.
Is it more fun for you to be able to be involved on both sides and know that there's always going to be an opportunity for me to make a play? Or do you sometimes wish, man, I wish I had a breather to take a break while the defense handles something over here and I'll chill over here?
Sometimes a breather is needed, but it's good because, you know, I've played striker before as well, and it can be frustrating sometimes waiting at the top of the pitch, trying to hope other guys can get the ball out and find you. And so being sort of in the middle of it all contributes to how involved you can be as a mid.
Yeah, and Drew, speaking with Shannon, knowing what Cameron Iwasa does, just the amount of talent overall on the roster that you guys have, it seems like you're not very separated in terms of specific positions. Yes, it's where you line up, but everybody contributes to an attack. Everybody contributes to a defense when they have to. That seems like the name of the game for Simon Elliott's team.
Yeah, I think there are always base positions, starting positions for people to kind of know where they're going to be on the field. So we have correct spacing and many options to play, try to be creative and stuff like that. But I think with our attacking players and the players joining in out wide and coming up from the middle, I think there's just so many options that we have going forward that we can be a really dangerous team if everything comes together.
Like they mentioned, there's a match on Saturday back at Papa Murphy's Park. If you haven't gone out yet this season or any season to check out the Republic FC, I highly encourage you to do so. It's an entertaining venue, an absolutely great time to see these guys in action doing what they love to do. And Sam, building off of, or trying to build off of a loss where you dropped points in Tacoma, now coming back, for you personally, do you take an extra or take a little more pride in this next game, knowing, man, we've got to step it up a little bit?
The response is certainly important, and we want to make sure we're not dwelling on the past too much and sort of starting with a clean slate. And it obviously helps that we're back home. You know, we're obviously a very tough team to beat at home, and so being back at Papa Murphy's definitely helps. So I think we're just looking forward to sort of, you know, starting over again, getting going on Saturday, and just kind of building. You know, it's a 0-0 game again.
Yeah.
Pass is a pass. We get to just go play again.
And we can, I mean, what I do for a living is overanalyze everything. We break down, we talk about everything. Sometimes it's redundant. I know to players it's like, chill. We're passing the ball, we're trying to shoot, we're trying to score. It's one game at a time. With a season as long as this season is, you don't want to dwell too much early on, but you also don't want to burn too much stamina or be too over emphatic early on in the season. How do you spread out that desire and that confidence through a full season?
Well, I think every game is important no matter what. So the game that we dropped over the weekend, those are valuable points that we could have had, should have had, whatever you want to say. But we just kind of focus on each game as it comes and only that game because nothing else really matters except for that moment. So yeah, just doing the best that we can, giving 100%, trying to get the points we need, trying to get the win is all we really need to focus on.
And Sam, the structure of the USL season, you're guaranteed another meeting with Tacoma. That's in the future, not worried about it. I know you guys are taking it one game at a time, but is there going to be another extra energy or fire anytime you take on a team that has defeated you before?
There definitely will be, I'm sure. I mean, that's a little chip on our shoulder going in against them, knowing that they kind of nicked a few points off us that we feel like we may or may not have deserved. And so that'll definitely be another thing we circle on the calendar, thinking we need to get those guys back when they come and visit us.
You guys seem like you hold each other to a really high standard, though. There's high expectations with this club all the way around. You don't have to give me specific goals for what this club overall wanted to accomplish, but how much or how important is it for you guys really to hold each other accountable, and how common is that with this group?
It's very common with this group, which I think is great. It keeps everyone at a really high level, both in training and in games. But that's sort of the standard that we need to have for a team that, I mean, we want to win a championship, obviously. That's what we want to do. And so if that's our main goal, there's all the little things that we need to do to reach that. And part of hitting those little goals is making sure that I can yell at Drew and he can yell at me, and we're just no hard feelings. Yeah. We know that we're just pushing each other and we want to get better.
Drew, you obviously have captains and leaders on teams, but I think it's important for any sports franchise in general to have a roster and a group that can hold each other accountable and can speak up when needed. You have that freedom with this group?
Absolutely, yeah. I think a ton of guys are contributing to training sessions, to film. Everyone's putting in the effort on and off the field, and that's just driving us forward. All the competition, all the criticism, the feedback, all that stuff is just one thing on top of another that'll make us all better in the long run.
Of course, there's cliches in sports that you always want to have fun, it's just a game, but ultimately winning is the name of the game, especially for a club like the Republic FC that have high expectations for themselves. Fans have high expectations for them, and rightfully so. But Sam, it seems like you guys just do enjoy playing with one another and have a lot of fun on top of those stresses and expectations of winning.
Yeah, I think that's exactly how it should be. Those are the championship teams. We were on that in college. That's sort of what comes with it, is guys are really pushing each other on the field, and we're also best friends off of it. And that camaraderie just builds on itself, and that makes us so much tougher to beat when we're in, when it gets tough, when we're down in a game, whatever it is, you can lean on the guy next to you.
And Drew, being able to play with a former teammate, we're going to go into more detail about your guys' background in college and playing at Stanford. But to play with someone in college and then to line up alongside them once again at a professional level, that's got to be pretty special.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. It's been a pleasure playing with Sam so far. Yeah, I think the first game we played together, I passed the ball to him. He was only on the field for like 20, 15 minutes, but I passed the ball more to him and in that time frame than I did to anyone else. It was just fantastic.
Natural chemistry. That's
Exactly,
what you get to these guys. Natural chemistry. Or the coach screaming at you to give the ball to Sam so he has an opportunity to get one of those.
Crushing it that game.
Well, before we dive into the Stanford background, I'm nosy. So I always am interested in travel for professional sports, professional athletes. Through the course of a season, you always hear stories about how athletes sometimes get tired of one another because you see each other so much, you travel together so much. But I love travel stories. So whether it's from your college days or from just over the last few weeks, any fun travel stories that you can share just with this group specifically?
We had a good one just this past weekend where we lived together in Sac along with Matt Mahoney, another player, and on the road those two roomed together. And so I was taking a stroll to their room, and I put on my robe from the hotel and walked into their room. They were both rocking their robes as well.
Okay.
It was actually unplanned. I had texted I was going to come because I was running the Sacramento Instagram takeover, and so I was going to come film with them, get them some content, and that just sort of like chemistry was already there. They were in the robes. Perfect.
There's nothing wrong with wearing the robes when you go out. That's what they're there for, their comfort, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Drew, anything to add onto that?
I can't think of any off the top of my head that stick out, but there are just little moments that happen all the time. Like in training sessions, someone will hit a ball weird or like whiff on a ball, and everyone will start cracking up and laughing. Like the other day in training, we were doing set pieces, and we were pretty much just having so much fun. People were smiling, laughing, just enjoying being together. So those are the moments that we'll cherish.
So Drew, you were talking about the laughter and the banter between teammates at practices and at training, and I was reminded of a player that I knew from William Jessup University when I covered William Jessup University soccer, and he was known as a practice player, and all his teammates would yell at him practice player every time he'd take a shot because he could score at will in practice. But he'd get to actual game situations. He just had a tendency of hitting the post, and sometimes it was just a little bit more off target. But it was a good way to make positive out of somewhat of a negative situation. It was one of my favorite things about that team and the camaraderie. And Sam, is there anything like that, or that you can point to specifically with this club, or how important hearing that anecdote that I just shared is it to have that for a team?
I think all the banter pieces that come out of training and come out of living together and being around each other all the time. It builds character and it builds the camaraderie up way higher, and it makes it. That's how we sort of survive this long season, is we have all those little things to laugh about, and we always have a job to get done. We have to win games, and that sort of lightens the load a little bit, which is always important.
Yeah, something to add on to that?
Yeah, I thought of an example in my head. So our third roommate, Matt Mahoney, he has these really funny sunglasses that kind of make him look like a military sergeant. So we kind of give him a little stick with that, but he just Sarge. He loves it.
Salute him every time he comes out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's one way to do it.
Exactly.
Banter, though, is something that not only happens between players, but especially with soccer fans. And being able to sit in the crowd to hear some stuff that soccer fans say, it's definitely entertaining from my perspective. I just wonder how much players actually hear it on the field. Of course, there's a line that you can cross going too far. Republic fans have great banter for other teams, but I'm sure you experience great banter on the road, whether it's at the professional level or in college. Mm-hmm. Is that something you feed off of? Is that something you enjoy as a player, hearing that and then shutting them up by doing something well on the field?
Yeah, I love it. It's super fun. It builds the energy of the stadium. It makes us want to play more, whether it's our home fans being super loud as they always are, or on the road sort of hearing it from the other team. I think it's always fun. In the 2017 National Championship game, I got booed the entire second half, and so when I scored the winner, that was the best thing ever, just celebrate in front of those guys.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. No matter what, the crowd, the energy that the crowd gives off, either home or away. It's just something that we can feed off of, whether it's positive, negative. We just take it as what it is, and we just use it to kind of motivate ourselves.
Sacramento has one of the best home field advantages. These guys getting to experience it now more and more as the season goes on. But I'm curious, Drew, about the advantages outside of Sacramento in either the USL or just in when you played in college. Were there any places that you just loved to play and loved to experience playing for? The crowds that you feed off of, even though they're not supporting you.
Yeah, FC Cincinnati was the big one last year. They had 20,000 fans at basically every game, so that was an awesome experience getting to play in front of those fans. They were chanting the entire game and stuff. And in college, one of my favorite places to play was Wake Forest. So playing against Hayden Partain there was pretty awesome. But their fans were incredible. They were chanting the whole time. They were talking a little smack behind the goal to our teammates, but that just egged us on even more, motivated us more. So that was a really fun place. And
I'm glad you brought up Hayden Partain, because we all saw, if you haven't checked it out, check out Republic FC on Twitter. Hayden pulled a little prank on some of his teammates for April Fools, hiding in a box and screaming. You can also check that out on KHTK.com if you haven't already. I encourage you to do so. Just speaks to the fun personalities that are on this squad. But what is that like, playing with, now being teammates with a guy that you were rivals with back at Stanford, playing against a guy that you had to play in high pressure situations and championship situations?
It's funny. I mean, the soccer world is so interconnected, and so those overlaps happen all the time. And just as we get to be teammates again, it's funny being teammates with someone that we sort of learned to dislike in college, because Wake Forest was one of our biggest competitions that we'd see every single year in the tournament, and like you said, playing it at Wake was a really big experience. They had incredible fans that are right on top of you the whole time, and then we played them in the national championship in 2016 as well and went into penalties. So it's funny how interconnected the world is, because there are always people like that pop up again.
It's really cool playing with them after playing against them, because when you're playing against them, you kind of think like, oh, this guy like kind of sucks. Like, I don't like playing against him. But then when you get to know him as a person, it's just like, oh, like, you're awesome. So those relationships are really cool to see before and after you meet them and get to know them.
Was there any kind of awkwardness at first of seeing him and going, we've been rivals before, but now we're teammates? I mean, I'm sure you guys kicked it off right away, right?
Yeah, we did. I mean, I think the first day I came, he recognized me from the national championship game and came and said hi, and I was like, I think I played against you before, and he was like, yeah, I remember that penalty shootout.
Oh.
And so we gave each other a little stick for that, and then since then he's a super nice guy, and we get along really well.
Awesome. You mentioned the Wake Forest fan experience. You also mentioned Louisville. I'm curious about college soccer at those major levels. You talk about those major schools, you think basketball, you think football, but soccer is played an extremely high level there as well. Can you share a little bit with me and with those that maybe don't understand college soccer at the highest level, just how talented it is and how much competition there is there?
It's super competitive, super intense. I know for us playing at Stanford, we had a class that graduated, was it 9 guys, 8 guys?
I think 7.
7, and every single one of us signed pro contracts.
Wow.
So, I mean, that speaks to the quality of players that are in those top Division I teams, and I know that's the same for places like Wake and other top programs. And so it's a there's not one way to go to be a professional, but I think going to college, at least for us, worked really well, and it was super fun at Stanford. We did a lot of winning and learned a lot and grew a ton as young men, so it was a good time.
Yeah, I think definitely learning valuable lessons was a really important thing that we got to experience at college. We kind of grew as individuals with all the kind of planning with classes and practice and all that stuff, just kind of added on top of each other. And being in college, you get those experiences and a degree that you wouldn't otherwise. So I think that's really helpful for the individual to just grow as a person, as a human being, becoming an adult. Those are really important times, and college is a great place where you can do that on the soccer field, off the soccer field, build relationships, stuff like that. But yeah, on the field, it's super competitive, and there are good players all over the country. So you can see it with players moving up to the MLS, going overseas, all that stuff. The college market is real, and hopefully it keeps growing.
What about the game as a whole in the United States? The major sports here, like I mentioned, the basketball, the football, even baseball to some extent. I was one of the slow learners when it came to soccer, and there I think are a lot like me and a lot here in Sacramento that now that the Republic are here are really getting the opportunity to experience the thrills of soccer. And I mean, I fell in love with the fan experience, and I really started being interested in the game when I watched what was happening away from the ball. Have you seen, just in your time growing from college athletes to now professional athletes, have you seen the game take or go to that next level in America? And do you feel like it's trending up still as we approach maybe deeper World Cup runs and things like that?
I think it definitely is. Especially, I think the USL sort of leads that as the second division pushes forward, and the MLS is obviously growing really quickly as well. And with players like Almiron, they're going over to the EPL. It's showing that the MLS is a real league that can produce players.
Yeah.
And in college, if you told me that I would be playing in a USL side that had this passionate fans, that made me someone that was actually cared about in the community, because I would have scoffed at you. And so I feel super lucky that Sacramento is obviously unique in that sense, and that's great. But I think that's something that's growing all across the country, and that's super helpful for us because we're getting more of the professional environment than I think USL players even did a few years ago.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same. I think it'll continue to grow a lot. I think we've seen it already in the past, 15 years or so. It's just been an incredible thing to witness as we've grown older, and it's cool seeing guys that are the same age as us that we've played with represent the national team and stuff like that. And it's really awesome to see so many people watching and tuning into those games and like the MLS championship games. It's really awesome to see all the fans really enjoying soccer and getting to know it more.
There's always been kind of a negative stigma, or I think it's evaporating more now, which I appreciate. But the MLS was always considered lesser compared to the EPL, compared to Bundesliga, La Liga. I mean, the talent of play, or the level of play over there is, world class, and MLS is slowly but surely working their way up to it. One of the things that I love that the MLS does is for their All-Star game, the MLS All-Stars take on a European club, which I think is a brilliant concept rather than just playing themselves. We're seeing more and more American talent, like you mentioned, playing overseas, which can only help grow the game in America specifically. But with the amount of clubs that there are a lot of clubs all over the world, but still with the amount of people all over the world outside of America that play this sport, is there a special feeling for you knowing that I get to play this game professionally and that I'm at least good enough to get to that level and to get paid to play the world's game?
It is, yeah. It's a special thing because there's not really another sport that's that interconnected globally. And it's cool to be able to see the game I play here in Sacramento. I can wake up and I can watch a game that's being played in England. And then when I travel, I get to go watch high-level play all over Europe. And last year I got to go play in Israel for a little bit. Yeah. If you told me when I was 13 that I'd go kick a ball in Israel after college, it's crazy how soccer can sort of take you to all these special corners of the world. And so not only is it fun as an athlete, but as a human to sort of get to see different cultures and see the whole world just because I kick a ball is super cool.
Yeah, and I like the cliche that's kind of like, oh, like so-and-so would kill to be in your position right now, stuff like that. So it really puts things into perspective about how lucky we are and how much we've worked to get to the spot we're at now. I think it's an honor to be able to play a professional sport no matter what it is. So we just kind of have to keep thinking about that as the years go on, just to think about how lucky we are and how much we work to get to this moment. And if we want to keep going higher, to just think about how much more we need to work and what other people would do to be in that spot. So yeah, it's really cool.
Bringing it back to the MLS and the USL, there are a lot of actually really cool soccer venues now in professional soccer in America. LAFC has really put themselves on the map. Of course, the Seattle Sounders, the LA Galaxy. You have what Atlanta is doing. Atlanta is completely embraced Atlanta FC over there, and Republic trying to eventually get to that. But in years past, guys, and I know you're aware of this, the Republic have had success making long U.S. Open Cup runs and getting an opportunity to play at some of those venues. While the regular season, of course, is important and you're focusing on getting as many points as you can in USL, is there a little extra drive for success in the US Open Cup when that begins here shortly?
Definitely, yeah. It's something cool. I mean, I played for the Timbers Academy in high school, and so I was around a really cool soccer environment. Portland, obviously, along with Seattle and Atlanta and a couple other cities, has super, super passionate fans. And so it's fun to get to go to places like that and play in their stadiums, and hopefully, we already have the fan base. Hopefully we have the stadium to match that soon as well. But Open Cup is a cool opportunity, though, to get to test ourselves against some of the good competition in the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as a club and as individual players, we want to get to the next level of MLS. So being in the U.S. Open Cup is just something that we can kind of test ourselves to try to prove to them that we deserve to be up at that level as a club and as players. So I think they're big opportunities, and hopefully we get to experience them this year.
Sam, I'm glad you mentioned stadium because it's a perfect thing for us to end with. They released, the Republic FC yesterday released brand new renderings or updated renderings of what the new stadium or the projected new stadium is going to be built in the downtown rail yards in Sacramento. If you have not checked out these pictures, if you were excited being in the Sacramento community with the pictures of the Golden One Center and when the Golden One Center opened, you need to check out. I mean, we're talking world-class facility that they're trying to build here in Sacramento. And years down the line, don't know where you guys are going to be in your professional careers at that point. But to play for a club right now that has something like that in their future, I get ahead of myself a little bit. First and foremost, what were your thoughts when you saw those images?
They were incredible. The stadium, everything about it looked absolutely incredible, and that'd be an absolute dream come true to play in that stadium in front of that many amount of fans and a city as cool as Sacramento. That'd be the ultimate dream come true.
It's one of the selling points for us on Sacramento when we first started talking about, he and I at the same time, we're talking about signing here, and that was obviously one of the big selling points when we were talking to Todd Donovan and other people in the organization, that they're making this push for MLS. And so having those things that we can look at to say, that's where we can be in a few years is super exciting.
And final thing for you guys, you obviously are ambitious as athletes, want to be the best that you can be, go as high as you can go, and hopefully you guys go all the way to MLS and maybe even beyond. That would be awesome for us here in Sacramento to be able to watch you guys as your career continues to unfold. But being able to play for, as young as you guys are, being able to play for a club that is equally as ambitious, that has those MLS, not just wants and desires, but expectations for themselves, especially from the fan base as well. Is it a relief to know that your individual goals and club goals are pretty parallel?
I think it's a match that you definitely want to have, and so we're definitely lucky to be in a club that is ambitious like that, because it sort of matches, like you said, our sort of intensity and how we go about our careers. And so when he and I can look on TV and say that's where we want to be, it's certainly inspiring, and it's good for us as athletes to know that our club is thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah, I think being part of a winning culture is very important, and I think what we have here in Sacramento is a culture that wants to win, that wants to make the jump to the next level. And I think some of the other clubs around the U.S. maybe don't have that mentality. Maybe they're focusing more on player development, stuff like that. So I think having that winning mentality, proving that we're good enough to be at that next level as an organization, that's really key.
All right, I lied. I got one more thing for him, and this is going to either make or break you guys for some fans out there, not just in Sacramento, but anywhere. Did you have any loyalties to specific clubs growing up, or players specifically that you love to watch that you wear proudly, maybe behind the Republic FC crest?
I mean, I'm a huge Manchester United fan, so I'm always yelling about it in the apartment. You'll hear me screaming at the TV and stuff, and I'll still wear my United jersey around, but domestically, I'll say just Sac Republic.
Good call.
The thing for me was Philadelphia Union. Okay. So growing up, I played for their academy, and last year I was with the Bethlehem Steel, which are the Philadelphia Union affiliates. So I kind of think of them as, my MLS club. But I'm glad we don't play the Steel. They're on the Eastern Conference, so don't have to worry about that too much.
Yeah. Well, that is Sam Werner and Drew Skundrich. The guys so kind enough to take the time to join us here at the KHTK studios and for a KHTK.com exclusive interview. Go out and watch these guys play. If you like them as people, you're going to like them even more as athletes and as players. They're truly next level. And this Saturday, you can check them out as they host the Austin Bold FC here at Papa Murphy's Park. Even if you're not a soccer fan, I promise you, I can almost guarantee you, and you can put it on me, not on them, put it on me. If you go there, You're gonna have a good time. I almost guarantee it. Everybody that I've taken there has enjoyed it, has always wanted to go back, so you will as well. Buy your tickets, go out there and support the Sacramento FC and these two guys right here. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time,
Yeah,
man. I
thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
us.